Is this real?
It's
tabletop time.
Yay!
Tabletop
Wow.
time.
That was the best. That's our best intro.
It's the best one yet.
My legs are killing me.
Let's cut to the chase. It's a painting party. Jeremy over on Black Magic Craft is just launching his Kickstarter for Idols of Torment, and there's a huge bunch of factions. We're all picking one that resonates with us, painting them up and showing off the game. Because if there's anything we love and support, it's YouTubers making cool games. I have chosen the Holo.
I have the Strife.
I am suitably the Vile.
And I've chosen the Vein.
Awesome.
Let's get down to business. Why do I turn everything into a weird song?
So Jeremy at Blackmagic Craft had sent us a whole bunch of cool models from his new game Idols of Torment. Now currently the individual 8 factions will be delivered as STLs with a core plastic sprue for measuring templates and an injection molded plastic sprue for all the desperate looking civilians. The game has an incredibly dark and grim aesthetic, reminiscent of all the most horrible parts of Warhammer the Old World blended with games like Dark Souls or Bloodborne. With those printed and queued up, we were ready to get started painting. And first off the ranks is Jen.
So when I chose the Vein, I originally had this idea that they were these weird looking vampire people. And I really wanted this to show through mostly their skin. I wanted it to look pale and sickly and give them some kind of vibrant colors. Maybe this was a thriving society at one point and they've just turned into this cursed, tormented tribe of people. So for my painting process, I went with contrast paints this time around. They gave off this really nice vibrant color. Starting off with the skin first, I chose this really sickly purple color and knew I'd be dry brushing on top of it to give the skin a kind of dead but fleshy look. Moving on to this female character, I again wanted to keep that really dead looking skin on her. But this time around, I wanted to add a little bit more color in there. And originally I thought that she looked like a ballerina, but then I kind of thought that purple and green make really good contrasting colors. So I gave her a green skirt and kept the colors a bit more darker on this one. And I actually really liked the way this turned out. Dave made a passing comment, said that she kind of looked like the Joker, and I kind of love that. And for my last model, this guy to me looked like a cultist, or maybe he was someone really important at one point and he's kind of a bit tormented and wandering around all over the place. He has a lot of cloth on him and I kind of wanted to keep this more in a culty sort of mood. So he was toned down a bit more with a lot more blacks, but keeping in those pops of color with red and purple. He also had a little tutu around him as well, so I made this a kind of pinky color just to make it stand out from all the black. Once I was happy with all of my contrast paints and how everything was looking, I decided to just go over the top with a little bit of dry brushing, just to make all of the edges pop out a bit. And to really amp up the gory effects on these guys, I went in with a bit of this contrast color that's a really nice deep red. This red was a great color for blood and guts, and I just put this pretty much everywhere on the model where I thought there'd be pools of blood that would be sitting. It was pretty gory at this point, so I didn't want to put too much on because these models are kind of stunning and I didn't want the gory effects to overweigh their beauty. Once I was happy with how my models were looking, I did notice that this cultist guy was holding a candle, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to try a little light touching of object source lighting. I'm not the best at this and I'm still learning the process, but I decided to just jump in and give it a try. I started off with a really pale yellow and just dry brushed this on top just to where I thought the lights would hit the parts of the face and body. I was really happy with how this turned out, just for a really simple effect, but I know I could probably amplify this in another model later on. So to finish everything off, I just based my models in a dark earth technical paint. I decided I wanted to add a little touch of beauty or growth into my models and decided I'd put in these really nice flowers. It's kind of a weird, tragic sort of look to them, and I think it really amplifies the story.
So as I've slowly been becoming more comfortable with a lot of tools around the place, since expanding my repertoire on Tabletop Time, I had a pretty solid plan for what I wanted to do with the vial. They're reminiscent of the cordyceps zombies from The Last of Us, and these gross mushroomy things also remind me of some of my favorite enemies from Bloodborne. With this in mind, I knew that their organic fleshy shapes would be best served by me airbrushing them. So with a white zenithal highlight on the models, I grabbed contrast paints and used them to spray all over the models. Contrast paints are perfect for this as they have that low opacity which allows you to do really smooth blends on organic flesh like this. I came in with some greens and also a few sepia browns just to build up a kind of disgusting and mottled effect on the skin. I actually think this technique would work really well for painting plague bearers or Nurgly creations, as it was super simple, super fast, but has a really nice Garden of Nurgle kind of feel when you're done. Now, I was really liking some of the gradients between the greens and the sepias, but I also wanted to add a bit of a splash of color. I was tossing up between a blue or a purple, and I ultimately went with Magos purple, that pinky purple, really giving it that gross bruised look that made it feel like mushroom mixed with flesh. Kind of uncomfortable here, yeah. There's also a lot of large and pretty obvious lichens and mushrooms growing all over the vial models. So for the crests that look almost decorative on the heads of the models, I kept that in the Magos purple. For the mushrooms and the lichen that were populating the sides and back of the models, I went full Skyrim and just
took an arrow in the knee.
Painted these a nice dark brown. One of the models had this big, disgusting, fleshy chest inside him, so I sprayed that far more heavily with a blood red contrast paint. Also gave a little spritz of this into the mouth of the other creatures, allowing it to splash over onto the gums and lips. One of the great things with airbrushing on these contrasts is that just made a really natural gradient, where it looks like the pink or red of the mouth gives way to the pink of the lips and then fades into the fleshy color. These make some really striking, poppy focal points on the models, and I'm really happy with the airbrushing and where it's got me so far. With all the airbrushing done, I allowed it to dry, and I brought in the fancy Artist Opus dry brushes, which are actually really good as long as you clean them properly, and I dry brushed the whole models with dead flesh from above. This just picked out the detailed areas and helped once again to bring together all the elements of the skin that had different base tones sprayed over them. I really like the grotesque feel of these fungus monsters. They feel extremely alien, and the fact that it's really unclear as to if they can even walk. They seem to be rooted to the ground on these tendrils like mushroom stalks, just adds to that sense of eerie otherworldliness. For the bases, I went with what the rest of the team had chosen, and I put down some dark earth texture pigment all over them, and then gave it a light dry brush in Vallejo's earth, before finishing up the models with a disgusting splotch of vomit technical paint all over the bases, as if it was dripping out of all the little sores on these monstrosities.
Hold your projects right there, everyone. There's an announcement we have to make.
Why ever? What could that be, Jazza?
We are here to announce
We're going to PAX Aus! Yeah!
on Friday we have two big things we're doing. Aside from running into you all at the different gaming halls and checking out PAX over the whole weekend,
We are doing a meet and greet at 2:30, and
Yay.
we're also doing
a panel talking about my favourite thing, the endless tumultuous treadmill of content. We're actually doing the panel with Trent.
and Dale Kingsmill.
And Jen's gonna moderate the panel for us to keep us all moderate.
It's
Yes.
8:30 p.m,
Yes.
so we'll be 2 beers deep and swear a bit.
These two will
It's
never
gonna
be
be
moderate.
really
Aussie
cool.
style.
Yeah.
Alright, this has been a very long and convoluted.
PAX!
So I started off with the blue-grey base coat of Citadel's The Fang, and then I decided to put in all my shades first. I started with really dark blues and purples and just poked them into all the really dark underside recesses. For the tree, I wanted a really mottled effect, so I put in a lots of little different colors, little mottled patches of greens, reds, browns. I'm going more for visual interest than anything accurate. So when highlighting fur, I like to go for a very strong jump in color, and then I'll start blending it back. I find doing this helps me blend tones and values a lot more successfully, and I'd encourage anyone else to try this out as well. For a final step on all the areas, I'll go for a very sharp spot highlight just to really dramatize all the parts of the model and give it that nice glossy effect. Whether that's on skin, fur, feathers, or horns, it always really looks nice on a small miniature. I put down some modeling terrain paste so I'll have some sort of nice textured foundation for my earthen floor, and then I left that to dry. Now when painting this mystic cloak, you'll notice that I kept a lot of the values and splash over colors from other areas. This will help blend it in, but also give the effect of a small amount of sheerness in the material. Then I just started highlighting as usual, adding more jades and cyans to make it a bit more turquoise. This will help elevate it from the more ruddy red of the fur. I did a very rough, non-metallic metal effect on the blade. The more speckled and rough I do it here, the more it looks like an old battered blade, rather than just a really nice, clean, smooth transition made by a really holy knight who tends to his blade every day. We don't want that, we want it to look really scuffed. I dulled down the overall tone of the staff, and then added some more fluorescent greens to give it a nice, sharp, evil pop of green, going for that Disney villain effect. I also applied this to the small Palantir-like orb in the other hand, and also to his third eye. This trio of spots across the model will draw the eye around and around, and it's a very good technique for drawing people into looking at your models, especially in competitions. Then it's on to the really fine details, painting all the little fingernails, horns, and highlights. But when it came to adding rust effect, I decided to just go full on and just paint a whole lot of blood, like he had just sacrificed some creature and it was pooling on the ground, staining his robes on the ground around him. Then to really finish it off, I added some ready-made basing terrain mix. This gave it a really lush earthen forest feel.
Where are they? They're gone. It's empty. I'm alone. It's like I'm on another plane of existence. It's like I'm a ghost. Or the Holo. Ah, just kidding. It's me, Jazza. Do you remember me? I used to be on this channel fairly regularly. Okay, it's been a hot minute since I've been in much creating content here on Tabletop Time, but I am a part of every video as the ghost of Tabletop Time. I'm the producer now, basically. I plan all the content with Dave, feedback on all the videos, and help make it all happen. But unfortunately, I don't get to join in as many projects as I'd like to, except for the rare few that I force my way into, even if my schedule is struggling against me at times. And this is one of those projects. So I came in on the weekend, I booked half a day to work on it. So I'm gonna just roll with the punch and share my painting process with you as the ghost of Tabletop Time present. What?
Now, fortunately, as you can see, I had my models printed in a clear resin. This was because I suspected I might be short of time, and now that I have an hour painting time after the cleanup and de-supporting, I'm pretty glad I made this decision. And fortunately for me, also, the supports came off without much reworking at all. I didn't even dip them in hot water, so great work there, Jeremy. So my plan is to give all of these characters a bit of a ghostly feel to them, but I wanted them to look as cool as I could with the little time I had. So I applied a variety of alcohol inks through an airbrush and created a gradient, and I started off with the lightest color towards the outer edges of all the characters and the higher up areas. So a teal to cover the faces, arms, and extremities that are furthest away from the base. Even just that first layer looks like an ice sculpture, and it's really cool. Soak it in, because that's an effect you could use for some really cool terrain pieces, just the teal and that crystalline clear resin. Then I moved on to a medium blue, which I started to create the gradient within the central areas of the figure all the way to the base, and with that in place, hit everything, especially in the deepest areas and the lowest parts of the models, with a purple. Now, on the one hand, I feel the need to apologize for not having more time to join in on this, but the reality is a lot of people only have the hobby time that they have. And as much as I sincerely and truly wish I could join in every single one of Tabletop Time's hobby projects, the reality is, as many of you watching this experience, we have the hobby time we have. And this is the hobby time I have, and I think just with the right choices and accepting the time you have and using it and enjoying it, you really can get some great results. As you can see in this step, I'm just hitting some of the deeper areas and especially lower on the model with a crimson shade that's sort of just basically going into the crevices. This is creating a slightly earthier, muddier and warmer texture away from all of those cools of the highlights. And as the final major painting step, once all of that was dry, giving a really delicate and sharp dry brush on all of the topmost edges. As you can see, really makes all of those gnarly details pop and creates a really nice contrast with the light at the top end of the model, bringing out that detail and tying it all in together.
And here are all our awesome ghosty ghoulies in all of their ghosty glory, in all of their glory. We've made some really cool models today. Each one is so unique and each faction has a different kind of style that I think really represents the artist that painted them. Lastly, a big thank you to all our Patreons who support us through all of our videos. It's because of you guys we can make awesome stuff like this and support our friends when we can.
If you'd like to support Black Magic Craft and their new game Idols of Torment, check out their Kickstarter. The links are in the description. This video isn't sponsored. We just thought it would be cool to put a bit of a spotlight on another creator and the game that they're making, as it's always cool to increase the diversity of the games on our tables. Go check it out, and thanks for watching. Let's do that outro thing now.
Thanks for watching, everyone. You all did such a great job. It was really fun to see everyone's different vision.
Yeah,
come
everyone's
together.
unique perspective was really cool.
And I think your observation, Jen, is correct. All of our armies and paint schemes sort of reflect us all a little bit. My invisibility and time poorness. Murray's intrinsically colourful and mixed way of creating the models.
And Jen, skinning people and doing ballet.
Yeah, all about that.
And I'm a disgusting mushroom monster.
Yeah.